This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com. And for my very first Skype interview of 2020, I have the gorgeous Calamity Kate from Vancouver BC. She helps run two wrestling companies, Rickshaw Wrestling, as well as Lucha Libre Spectacular. She's also into the burlesque dancing and burlesque show scene, from what I understand. And she's mixed it with wrestling from time to time. And she's also a filmmaker. So thanks for joining me today.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I actually have a small history with you.
Yep.
I met you last December 2018, in LA. You were doing the New Japan Pro Wrestling camp that month, and you did pretty good. You were training a lot with Danica Della Rouge, who I've also interviewed since then, and you had an amateur wrestling match with her on that show too, right? Or as part of that camp. But you kept up with the guys. You did better than a lot of the guys in that camp. So how was that camp for you to start it off?
Well, first of all, you were the first person I met when I arrived, and I remember being so nervous. I'm like, I don't know anyone. Like, what's this going to be like? And I think you were like the first person I talked to, and it was really awesome. And it was great to, make a new friendship. And actually, everyone I met there was so amazing, including Danica. Although I've had to kick her butt a couple times in the ring since. But yeah, the camp was really interesting because it felt like it was a lot of basics. So at first I was like, I want to learn new moves. I want to, but I came away with more of a fire in me after I left in terms of, like what I learned a lot from Shibata is just being more aggressive in the ring. Did you take that away from the camp?
The only thing I really took away from it, honestly, was some of the cardio and stretching
Okay.
training. I liked going to LA. I liked the interviews that I did there that week. I'm actually going back next week for
Oh,
another PCW show that I know you attended the last one, but it was an all right experience. Met everyone there, as you said, was
okay.
nice. It was nice meeting everybody, but I wouldn't do it again.
Interesting. It's interesting you say that because I know a couple of people who feel that way, and I think at first I felt that until I came back. And for me, just like going over a lot of the basics, running the rope, grabbing a headlock, um, I was like, hey, I already know how to grab a headlock, but I didn't. I felt like sometimes just those little tweaks and improving on like little basics actually helps so much. Like I don't know, for me I noticed a big difference in my wrestling afterwards. So I was really grateful for the camp, and I was grateful for the time Shibata spent with me kind of after the class, just working on like snap bumps and yeah, for me I it brought out more anger in me in the ring for my
Yeah.
future matches. So that was invaluable for me. But yeah.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I'm not saying that the technical aspect wasn't good. It just seemed like a lot of bumping and some of those drills like were for like the females and smaller wrestlers and a big guy like me. I don't
Right.
know how how much I'm going to use that in my matches, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. And what was your background in wrestling before going to that? Obviously, you were running those companies even before that, but how did you get into it?
Okay, so I started wrestling. Well, at that point, it had been 2 years. So now it's been about 3 years. I started as a burlesque performer. So I've been a burlesque dancer for 10 years. I've started dancing. I started dancing at the age of 3. It's one of my biggest passions. I love like moving my body, being in my body, being on stage performing. And so through a local show here in Vancouver called Glam Slam, which is kind of like a lucha vavoom thing, it's wrestling and burlesque. I started with my burlesque troupe, the Lost Girls. We started performing a lot with Glam Slam. And then at one point they wanted the girls to do a bit of training so that we could like get in the ring and just like do a little thing. And I remember thinking like, I'm too busy, like I can't do it, I'm not really interested. And then I went to this training because I thought, well, it's free, I'll just try it. And I was like, I can't believe I haven't been wrestling my entire life. I just loved it so much. Like I did Taekwondo as a child. So it brought back some of that that for me. But also I realized that wrestling and burlesque performing is so similar in different ways, but it's very similar because as a burlesque performer, you're a caricature of a woman, let's say, if you're performing as a woman. And you see those jacked up, oily men in little tights. They're like a caricature of a man wrestling, right? And so there's that like kind of campy performance aspect. There's costume. There's character. There's storytelling, and being in your body and pushing your body to do new things. And I loved it so much. And ever since then, I was like, I just have to wrestle. And now I've been focusing more on wrestling than burlesque, actually. And it's really evolved to be like one of my biggest passions. My only regret is that I didn't get into it sooner. And like, I just didn't know what I was missing until I got in and I started doing it. Now I'm just obsessed.
And I'm going to guess that burlesque pays more than independent wrestling.
It does. Yeah, it pays a lot more. So like clearly I'm not wrestling for the money, but I will say that the fans in wrestling are just so incredible. Just so amazing, so supportive. I've just gotten so much support from people.
And I've bounced at burlesque shows, so I'm very familiar with it. I'm actually a fan of it.
Cool.
But for people that don't know what it is, it's not girls that are necessarily stripping the full Monty. It's more of a performance, more of a showgirls Las Vegas style show than an actual performance that you would see in like a strip club, right? Like for someone that hasn't been to a burlesque show, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I would say it was like, it's interesting. I've heard a comparison that like, I mean, I think strippers are amazing and I think like that's incredible work and they're very much athletes. If you've ever seen someone on the pole, like it's incredible.
Some more than others.
Some more than others. But someone once described, I think, stripping as more of like the fantasy, like women kind of portraying a fantasy for the men, which is cool. And then burlesque is more of like women portraying a fantasy for themselves or for other women. So when you go to a burlesque show, you'll often see more women in the audience than men. And women feel empowered by it and they feel empowered by each other being on stage. Like I remember going to my first burlesque show and being like, whoa, like you can tell this girl on stage just had a baby because she has all these stretch marks on her stomach, but she's like proud and she's feels comfortable in her body and she's not ashamed of something that like maybe like the toxic masculinity in society will tell us to be ashamed of a certain body part. Instead, like you'll see women on stage celebrating it, right? So it's really empowering, and it's fun. It's really fun. And, you know, I think a lot of women, they see themselves on stage and they can just really get into it that way.
And it's a little classier, I noticed too, than stripping, the normal stripping, because I noticed that the fans of burlesque will often actually dress up to go see a burlesque show.
Well, I wouldn't say it's classier. I would say maybe it's just more of like an event or like an evening. You know, like it's honestly like I think stripping's great and I think strippers are amazing and I want to make the money that they make. So it's awesome.
I just noticed as working a strip show, like a lot of guys will wear the old sweatpants, no
right.
underwear tricks, so for their dances.
Well,
But like I didn't notice that as much as the burlesque.
well, that's true. Maybe burlesque just has more of like a like going out to a theater show or just like a good excuse to like get dressed up and like have a date night. Whereas
Yeah.
like maybe not a strip bar, you don't get that as much.
Yeah, it's easier to convince your girlfriend as a guy to go to one of your shows as a burlesque dancer for sure. But you said you've intertwined burlesque and wrestling a few times. How have you done that?
Well, I always try to add dance into or like elements of dance into my wrestling because like that those are my strengths and so things like the splits and turns and cartwheels handstands like those elements I'll bring into my wrestling. Sometimes my entrances will have more of like a dancey kind of burlesque feel. And just it's just who I am. Like I'm really just being me and like that automatically kind of comes into it.
Now, we've already talked about you wrestling Danica, who's becoming quite a little star on the indie scene. She's already had WWE tryouts, wrestled for Ring of Honor. Is there any other known women wrestlers that you've been in the ring with that people watching might recognize their names?
Yeah, recently I had a couple of matches with Nicole Matthews. So she was in the Mae Young Classic in 2018, I think.
I
Yeah.
recognize the name for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, Nicole Matthews. Um, I was just in the UK, where I did a six-way women's match with Lexa Vallo. She won the title, and Katrina. And who have I worked recently? Well, you are going to see Tessa Blanchard at the end of January, but I won't be working her. But there might be something that I do with her.
Is she coming to your company?
Yes. Yeah. She's
Oh,
working
that's
our
good.
show. Yeah. Yeah. She's amazing. So I'm
Is
really excited.
she is she wrestling a man or a woman on that show?
A woman.
Okay.
Uh, well, she's wrestling the Dark Sheik from
Okay.
Slam. So a trans woman. Yeah.
Okay. So
And yeah, it's her first time in Vancouver, so I'm so excited for her to come. Mhm.
that is exciting. She's got to be one of the top women wrestlers out there in
Mhm.
the world. Everyone's waiting for her Impact contract to expire because I'm sure she's making money there, but people would like to see her on a bigger stage. I think where she could really flourish. So good idea bringing her in
Mhm.
because I think that's going to be a big draw for you. You're also a filmmaker.
Mhm.
I watched a TV news clip on you recently that showed some footage of one of your films. These are real films that you're getting funding for from the government, I guess, and presenting them. They look very professional. How did you get into that?
Well, I went to film school, and I've been working in the film industry for 15 years. Um, yeah, film. I mean, and again, like film, burlesque, wrestling. They all kind of intertwine for me, and so an amazing creative outlet, and again, storytelling, character, things that I love, and yeah, that's always been a passion of mine, and one of my first passions is storytelling on screen, and yeah. I don't know. I don't really know what to say.
I like your mirror and your painting in the background, by the way.
Oh, yeah,
I
thanks.
like
Bullfighter.
the frames. Very cool.
Oh, thank you.
I like the gothic style of it.
Thanks.
So what are your goals in wrestling? You say you're very passionate about it. You love the performance aspect of it. Where do you see yourself going in this business?
Yeah. Um, so I mean, first of all, my boyfriend Cobra Kai and I, we've been producing our own shows locally as a film producer. It was just like and also a burlesque producer, like producing wrestling shows just felt really natural to me. It was kind of a no-brainer, like let's put on a show. Um, and So definitely Cobra Kai and I are going to continue producing our own wrestling shows. But in terms of my own career, I was just wrestling in London for the second time. Um, so I'm looking forward to like traveling more and wrestling in more places. Again, like I'm always training. I'm always trying to get better. Like I'm getting a little emotional right now because like sometimes I like feel like I'm training a lot and I'm getting better and then I'll do a match and like I won't feel happy with my match or I won't feel like I'm getting to where I want to be. And so I don't know, it feels like really emotional for me right now. I can't believe I'm crying. Um because
Well,
like
Nat, I trained with Natalia when I was in Stampede Wrestling. She would often cry after her matches, so she's
really
one of the all-time
that actually
greats now. So,
that makes me feel better because like I think like as artists and athletes like it's so easy to doubt ourselves and right now I'm going through a time of like real doubt. Um and just of not knowing like where my place is or what I'm doing. I can't believe I'm crying.
it's okay.
um and so like actually like I'm being really honest with you right now. Like I just don't know like where my place is and I'm trying to figure it out and I'm so lucky to have supportive people in my life, like really supportive fans, like really amazing promoters that I get to work with. And so I just want to keep getting better. I don't care, like obviously, like who wouldn't love to like be on Impact or WWE, but right now I just want to get better and just be the best wrestler that I can be. Just I want to like make really good like really nice connections with people, like make new friends, meet new fans, and just like try to be like the best that I can be, and then hopefully from there, like people will enjoy what I do and like want to support me.
Well, you have the passion for it, obviously. So that's one of the most important things in wrestling to make it, because it's a very tough business, and if you don't have the passion for it, you're not going to last. So that's nice to see. I haven't seen one of your matches actually um, since I saw you at that camp, so I'm going to have to look you up. Where could we look up
Yeah.
your company or some of your work?
You can go to calamitykate.ca, CA for Canada. So if you go to calamitykate.ca, there's photos, video. I need to update it, but I usually have like a list of my upcoming shows. And if you follow me on Instagram and Facebook, I'm always posting video there. And like I always encourage people to like reach out to me, message me, say hi. Um, yeah, I have a match coming up January 31st called Battle World 88. That's the show with Tessa Blanchard. And then I have the next day I have a show called Glam Slam in Vancouver. So that's the wrestling burlesque show. So I'll be wrestling and maybe doing some burlesque too. Um, Yeah, and just I guess follow me on social media to see video and stay up to date.
And it's Calamity Kate. We know on Facebook, on Instagram. Is it the same thing?
Yep, Calamity Kate Showgirl on Instagram, um,
Twitter.
Twitter, Miss Calamity Kate MS. I'm pretty easy to find. Hmm.
Any plans? I know you've had a long time boyfriend. Uh, Obviously, being a woman wrestler, having kids obviously would slow down a career. Is that in your plans anytime soon?
That's like that's a really tough one. I think if I ever do have kids, I'm not going to stop wrestling. And you know, you see it with some wrestlers out there and it's so inspiring and it's so amazing and I don't think that we need to stop. Like I never want to stop. I never want to stop training. Um right now I don't have any plans. Right now I'm trying to just focus on wrestling. But I don't know. Who knows what the future will hold?
And who would be your ideal opponent if you could pick one opponent? If you could only have one more match?
I get asked that all the time. Um, I don't know because I think like if I wrestled someone really like famous and amazing, the pressure would be so suffocating. That's why I'm not working Tessa Blanchard. Like I just don't want. But I think she
Well, I'll
actually
give you some advice as a promoter. I used to do that. I used to bring in the stars and
Mhm.
not actually wrestle the stars.
Yeah.
Not for that reason, but I just didn't want to because in general they don't do as much on indie shows. But if you're spending the money to bring in the stars for your own career to get more popular, you should wrestle the stars. That's just my advice to you.
Well, I'm not bringing her in for me to get popular. I'm bringing her in because I love her and I think like she's going to be amazing and she's going to have an amazing match. But she is definitely on my list. So who knows? Yeah.
There's the worst that could happen is you'd probably have a better match with her, even if it was her worst match than you would have with someone else, just because she's so good.
So good.
She could she could like pull a Ric Flair and make a broomstick look good. Not that you're anywhere at that level. You're an impressive athlete.
Thank you.
When I saw you doing those drills at the camp, you definitely did a lot of them better than I can even to this day, and you've got the flexibility. You were able to stand on your head, do that drill.
Yeah, remember that.
You tried really hard in the amateur match that you had too, and a lot of female wrestlers would never even want to do anything like that. So
Oh,
I
thanks.
wish you nothing but success in the future, and I appreciate that you spoke with us today.
Thank you. Yeah, it was so great to chat with you again and it's been a whole year. I can't believe it.
Well, maybe one day we'll get you over here in Great North Wrestling, and you can show your stuff on this side of Canada because I'm not sure if you've competed in this area before yet.
I haven't. It's definitely on my bucket list. So let's make it happen.
Definitely. Well, maybe who knows? What is it? August 8th is our big 13th anniversary event, so
Oh,
we'll see. Maybe we'll talk to you more about that in the future.
oh, that sounds amazing. And again, if you ever make it out to Vancouver, you know, let me know.
Definitely. I used to go there when I was an amateur wrestler a lot. I was
Oh,
actually going to go to Simon Fraser, but I made the stupid decision of turning down my scholarship to go right into pro wrestling, which is something that was really dumb. But any final thought to give our fans to close this off here? Because we actually have a lot, even though we're based in Canada, the majority of our audience is in the United States and the UK. So you're
oh,
speaking
cool.
to fans all over the place.
Okay. You know, the one thing that wrestling has taught me, and like you just saw, like some of the self doubt that I have, is just to be yourself. Be you don't worry about what anyone thinks about you. Haters don't pay your bills. And so just like live life the way you want to live it. because like we only have one chance to do it. So like just do everything that you've ever dreamed of doing and don't ever stop.
Well, actually, haters pay my bills in a way because I have a lot of hateful people that watch my videos and seem to enjoy insulting me. But thanks for the views, everyone.